Good thing you just missed out on my introduction, right? Not the actual poets. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, whoever texted Shane.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's so nice to be able to read for you all tonight, because actually I was just thinking earlier today, Then Telling Be the Antidote came out exactly 1 year ago, almost exactly. And last year I was doing this same thing and like launching the book and doing these readings and thinking about how surreal it was, because when I was like in high school and then when I was in university as a young poet, I used to come to Russell's all the time and browse their extremely elite poetry selection. It's now I've lived in a lot of other places and been to a lot of bookshops, but I think Russell still has one of the best poetry selections in the world, and it's just insane to me that I got to grow up with that. And I think it's contributed a lot to my love of poetry, and any minor or major successes I may have had or could have in the future kind of starts in the basement at Russell's, or at their old location, I guess. Where was it?
Just across the street.
Yeah. In that like ramshackle, like falling down shelves place. And anyway, it's just very special to me. So Then Telling Be the Antidote is my first collection, and it's in response to this idea about history and memory being discrete influences in how we experience contemporary life. And there's a French philosopher called Pierre Nora, and he talks about how we're gradually replacing memory with history. Now that we have all sorts of archives and testaments and documents to consult about how we should be living life today, we're no longer relying on the memories of our predecessors, of our families, or of even ourselves. We're trying to dislocate our experiences through other people's testimonies of what our world has looked like and how it came to what it looks like today. And I think we're losing something very precious by excluding acts of memory and elements and products of memory from our lives, because history doesn't have any emotion. And the emotion that we feel today will never ever make it into any sort of historical document. Our sadnesses and our happinesses and our grief and our joys, they're never going to be felt in any other way except in how we choose to document our memory. And so I think poetry is one of the only things that allows us to have a kind of direct lineage between memory and history, to integrate those two things and to have them be equally as important. So I'm going to start with reading the opening poem to this book, and which speaks kind of directly to this aspect. And it's a little bit of a long one, but I'm reading, so. It's called Striations. Battered clouds, animals die. Tokyo paints cubist, sending the day to us in shards. Tile, orange, porcelain. Dark glyphs of telephone wire, crafting inky pictures amid Sengenjaya's low, silent roofs, as the underground stairway shudders with the wet slippings of steps. Human currents riding towards the thinning alleys in relief. Bright ripples of speaking. Something burns the way only night allows for, which is to say, briefly imagined in the small, cold, while beautiful compact darkness dapples light along as perfume. Now, I can say then, as if it were still. Such is the heaven of images. Elements abiding their perfection, the metro lines the pulse of Setagaya. You bring your feet up on the seat. Again, the city's lattice blurs into lace. Time sets the slate for action. And together we move horizontally along the practiced methods of steel. Its machine way of voiding motion. East on the map as it approaches west on the clock. We are heading home. This city is how I find you, and I will never see you outside it. This long way, the land obeys its shapely waters. It reminds me how often beauty comes to resemble surrender. Like rhododendron, neon taxi skids, bracing teeth of ivy. Crows getting fat and happy on yellow rims of fried chicken, supple and paper, then slowly taking flight as if falling upward. I think of Rexroth. Was it that time is the mercy of eternity, or time at the mercy of eternity? Past the hour, knitting greens together in rain, we bend the last stalks of camellia along Higashiyama's short houses, tracing what has moved and what has been touched, lemon trees and brooms supine indoors. You were telling me that mountains in Japan express the verticality of space, that their true height is inward at an invisible center. The pressing of knowing into unseen places is how one trains in that great art, patience. Not conquering outward, but tunneling within, streets and the imagination of direction. To live is to study the borders, distance poured by the wind to flood hidden forms. Kenko spoke about a man whose only regret upon death was to have left behind the sky, its dusky efflorescence, silk, steam, grand delusions of infinity, putting our own lengthy promises to shame. No one knows what to do with all that vastness anyway. We'd go bad going on forever. So the whole of history crowds to sit at a single table, lighter and shiftier and more prone to questions. We speak to capture all this that does not keep shape, clasping its cindered shimmer in diagrammed sentences, our own lovely unknownness. The triangulation between you and I, and the always possible nature of a very next moment, that is the doorway I would like to keep walking through, seeking wonder of the unmysterious kind, wherein the distant and minute grows larger and more daunting as one unthinkingly approaches them. We are used to pretending a certain choice, like settling on land or ride at the end of all these very long nights. But no imagination goes into these endings. It is a simple alignment that leads the hair of Botticelli's Venus to slur the lotus gill of Genta, and that stirs Milos' reflections of clouds and trees into the bare cherry etching wild into Meguro River. We simply end up, as it seems, soft in bath water, tired in laundry, our bodies fitting liquid shapes, washing through the minutes, taking the brief by its single thread and leading it passingly to the sea, on and on and on. Sometimes I think my thinking has nothing if not your head to hang to, becoming suddenly afraid at leaving behind the sky after already having formed an entirety to fit beneath it. You are sheltering the grace of an eye that has seen endlessness, in which my love, my remarks on love, my noticings and slight carbons are salvaged. You are what I know as I go and return from the long landscape of knowing. This is not the first place we've called here, and you are not the first to be searched for amidst the long velvet sheets of lyric, wandering towards music during the quiet. Clear and high on whiskey and tan simmers of salted fish, peddled along rice squared in cedar wood. We lay crosswise against the braided tatami grain and watch as the sailing boundary between your language and mine practices its peaks and hallucinations, geometries and theologies. In this flawless staging of immortality, the lover dreams, disappears, survives passion's interrogations, and the turning bird of desire sings through the night. There are always such ancient questions, unyielding and insistent on this side of the wide farness. Yet holding one another, we form some simple line where they do not hesitate to land, folding their wings, listening to silence, asking nothing for a moment, which, as I have told you here, is forever. So the next poem I'm going to read is about doors. There's an artist called Christian Mark Clay, and I think he became quite famous for doing a 24-hour film in which he takes stills from existing movies and incorporates them into this 24-hour timeline. And the only images he takes are the pictures of clocks. So each minute that this film runs, the clock is showing that exact time. And this film goes on for 24 hours. And it's a very moving piece, of course, to force us to take acknowledgement of how we see time and how we use time, and how time is something that we force ourselves to measure for the world to make sense. And he just recently came out with another film, which is all about doors. So it's the same concept. He uses existing movies and he takes every single scene in which there's a door opening or closing. And this film runs, I think, for maybe almost 10 or 12 hours as well. And he says something really interesting, which is that a door is always a precipice of change. Somebody, especially in a film, when a filmmaker shows a door in the frame, it's a catalyst for an event, for maybe a surprise, or maybe an ending, or it's essentially something that tells us that we're watching something happen in the frame, which is also happening in the frame of a film. So the door is the frame for an event, and the film is a frame for our witness. And in a poem, we can exert the same kind of effect, because a poem is always a frame for our intelligence and our most aware and most articulate selves. So this poem is called "The Man I Love Ran Off with Everything Except My Poems." There was a thought hanging like a trick of light on the door, as if it could fall at any second. We knew if it fell, it would make a sound like water. The thought communicated with its wayward tracings that it did not know to whom it should return. The door was a fiction of the thought, who had changed it from nothing to have something to hang to. My hair is yellow in the fiction, then it is black, almost as fact. Your hair is walnut in the photograph, until fact throws a wild light upon it. Doors are a fact of their swinging, and water has noiseless ways of entering the room. Your eyes are what filled the doorway to pieces. In a book about love, Gertrude Stein says that her portrait from Picasso is the only reproduction which is always I. I want to take I, back from your eye of doors, which lead powerfully into silence and an illegible animal approach of resemblance. The immortality desire inflicts is a perpetual living on of somewhere other, just as a door can only ever be open or closed, never neither. Just as fictions come to live side by side with fact, and hair grays sometimes just while you're sleeping. The days all rest around in halves like oranges, I and I and I laying between them, being as much someone as they are anyone. Thank you. How am I doing? Okay, last one. So the last one was about doors, so this one is about windows. No, I'll do one. I'll just do one. So the architect Louis Kahn said that windows want to be rooms, which is something that I found so beautiful because I lived a portion of my childhood in China, and then I lived a portion of my adulthood in Japan. And in East Asia, that small space between a window and the rest of the world is where so much of life happens. You know, laundry is hung there. Sometimes people cook out there. Sometimes there's all sorts of machines and all sorts of detritus and all the objects that you don't want to see every day, but you can't seem to bring yourself to get rid of. They live in that small space on your window or just right beyond it at a tiny little balcony that you can't quite step on, but that feels like an extension of yourself just trying to meet the outside world. So when you walk along the streets in a major city in China or in Tokyo, you can kind of see that, you can kind of surmise more intentionally than how you would be able to do here what kind of people are living right behind those windows. And it's a very magical sense that you are carrying your life with you wherever you go, and that these people are trying to kind of slightly just reaching out and feeling you walk and watch them, despite not being aware of who you are, despite you not being aware of who they are. And it's just a solution to how lonely it can be to live in an urban center like that. So this is about that sense of not wanting to be so alone. It's called Looking Twice. In a green walk-up behind the Sumida River, there's a mattress on the floor, supplied in ivy. And through a window no one can see, there are hours carved from a night translucent. Inside them, a room where, between 4 a.m. and your shoulder, I saw yellow. There, a day threaded through the simple gaze of other days in succession, somehow making its way here again. Along the bank, a girl plucks a dark round from the gathered grapes, sneaking one. Small squares in midair glared bright white when someone turned a light on inside of them. I walked through the rhododendron and remembered the skin of your arm, warm and strong, between my teeth. Despite knowing that the only eternities are the ones slipped into the remote catalog of forgotten things, I found myself at the base of a green building, looking up, seeking that most difficult thing, not resurrection, something freer, life unbound from the circumstances of its birth, a memory that stands up without its frame. Single room withholding the elapse of years, still the gentle matters of love, as if a dream had finally, after a terrible struggle, escaped from the mind. Thank you.
Wow. Xiao Yue, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. Shane Book is a poet, filmmaker, and professor in the Department of Writing at the University of Victoria. His first collection, Sealing of Sticks, was a Poetry Society of American selection and won the Great Lakes Colleges Association New Writers Award and the Prairie Schooner Book Prize. His second volume, Congotronic, won the Archibald Lampen Award and was a finalist for the Canadian Authors Association Award, the Ottawa Book Award, and the Griffin Poetry Prize. His award-winning films have screened at more than 50 film festivals across the world and on television. He was a writer-in-residence at Randolph-Macon Women's College in Virginia, St. Mary's College of California, the University of Calgary, and has taught at a number of institutions, including the New York University, Temple University, U of C, Berkeley, Western Kentucky, Stanford, and Shane is also teaching a masterclass for us tomorrow. Shane was also the visiting professor of poetry at the Iowa Writers' Workshop. Very big deal. The Canadian edition of his new poetry collection, All Black Everything, will be published next year and is presently out with Iowa University Press. So I believe this is like this is contraband, it makes it even more enticing for poets, right? It's a little bit of rubber. Anyway, this is amazing to have Shane here tonight. Please welcome Shane Book.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. I'm really happy to be back in Russell Books, and I'm delighted to be reading poetry to all of you. And I also hi to all there's some friendly faces, people I know in the crowd. I'm sure everyone here is friendly, but I'm going to read a few pieces from this. I'm just want to set up my time so I don't go on and on. And so this book, I feel weird saying this because we're live streaming, but I'm sure no one's watching who would get me in trouble for this. But yes, so this is an American edition, which is not supposed to be sold in Canada. The Canadian edition, I think, will come out next year, but I have a few copies if you want to talk to me afterwards in the dark alley behind the building. All right, so this is a book that it's a lot of voices, it's a lot of music. It's influenced by, some reviewers have talked about, there's a lot of hip hop references, but there's also a lot of other lyric references in it. So I'll try to give you a little tour of what's going on in here. And the first poem I'm going to read is kind of based on someone I knew or know in, I don't want to out the person. The live streaming thing is weird, right? Because normally you just say whatever the fuck you want, and it's poetry. There's only 10 people, and they don't remember your name after. But I just picture this person, and I'm going to say in West Africa, watching and being like, I'm going to get you for this. Anyway, no, it was a very strange moment, but I realized we were in a country that had potholes everywhere in the roads, and he had an expensive Italian supercar in a garage, which he could not drive on the roads because it would be destroyed. And to make matters even weirder, he would have to drive it onto a plane to get it serviced, to fly it to Italy. I'm not even making this up. So I was both disgusted and fascinated by how this kind of wealth. So this is kind of about a version of this person who I'm sure, I don't want to cast aspersions, but it's kind of odd. It's called Kofi Mnemonic, and Kofi is a common name in parts of Western Africa. There is great sadness in this poorest of lands, the only Lambo in the land, belongs to my Christian friend. A Lambo is a Lamborghini, a piece of Italian art on blaster wheels. Nightly, a piece of an Italian is wheeled into the lamb I'm always on the verge of, the most precise steel in the most aggressive heels of Italian steel ever felt in the sternum. A chemical kind of power, a space coupe dressed as beauty, shard, flower. Very hardcore business man. I'm a business man. Our dearest anthropologist always warns us of past things. A Blade song, a greed radio. But y'all too busy trying to find that blue-eyed hole. Me, I let my black hair grow and my stroke go, and my smoke mow down my sweat too much on the regular. I'm gonna glow up the sky, give the whole hood a light show. If it ain't Fallujah hallelujah level, then I don't want no more snow. I'm betting on flip-flops, loose robes, and RPG glow. I'm like, God damn, I'm not a bleach boy. God damn. When my boy's Lambo needs repairs on the regular, he drives the car up a ramp and onto a plane. The monster's exhaust rockets louder than a Carthaginian elephant army rain. He flies that beast business class from Africa to Spain, filled with hollow mangoes, filled with I can't feel my face things. He collects the wildly metallic patient that now screams sings in perfect punches in his bankrupt country. The roads are too wrecked to wreck a piece of art blaster. In a fortified garage, the car hulks. So I'm gonna read, trying to give you like a taste of, because the poems are quite different from piece to piece. So I lived in England for a little bit of time a few years ago, and I was in this small town trying to get my hair cut. So this kind of sort of about living in this ancient town. It's called Glock weather. A Glock is a weapon, a gun. It's Glock weather. That's why all my sweatpants are leather. A set of older white people spies me strolling the shuttered downtown core. Away with those purses, pursed lipless lips. They cross over. It does not hurt a little. Human crossover dribble, whatever. I'm floating. I'm sipping. Steady tripping. Pure Evian, no tap water. I'm wearing fake Chinese fox fur in these young money temps. I own these times. No cap. I've been on the craziest wave, making nice. And now they want to make me CID? Nice for what? That's the London where they floss a lot. You say you no go leave-o. If you no sleep, I no go sleep. Money long, my car too fast. Aventador, cherry body chocolate like a kitty cat. Chilling in my inner Dubai, I get by. My fire is fire. My inside desert is lit. By the oil fires of 1,000 American blood suns, they're gonna make me interview again for it. Next time I see him waiting online at the fish bar, my Cape Verdean barber tells me I've been looking fly. International flex. This is the real face. A preg getting my hair did at the only black barbershop shop in a slate-walled English town. I felt this sound from the other side. Who be that? So this next poem is called I Know I've Reached Peak Shame. It's like peak oil, but not as profitable as peak oil. Better for the environment, you're not making any money on peak shame. Okay, I know I've reached peak shame. You try living in a pigeon pen above a series of car repair shops and love motels for a while. Then come talk to me. Real talk. This run by Queen Victoria, British Empire, outpost of the history of the goddamn complete world, opium, Scottish Presbyterian gangster shit, the main flavor profile of toothpaste, incidentally. What a charge. Hit the past so hard, make it float and wait. I'm not no Airbnb sucker. I went to driving school, drove a plug-in hybrid sports car by Porsche in my mind. 918 Spider maximum torque insect in my mind. Fastest electric coffin ever maimed. All my niggers blew up like a brain drain, except me. The cockpit is above the mounds of fabric, ruffling my waxen face. I have a great LeBron face for you and you and you and you. That's a weird poem. So weird. Like, what was I thinking when I wrote that? So there's a note in the back of this book of all the places I wrote this in. I'm gonna read it. Just the places. And I won't say the countries you can get. So Accra, Barcelona, Bowling Green, Busia, Cabo San Lucas, Calgary, Havana, Honolulu, Iowa City, Itaparica, Lisbon, Madrid, Montreal, Nashville, Norwich, Oakland, Ottawa, Paris, Philadelphia, Port of Spain, Rio de Janeiro, Rome, Salvador, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, Santiago, Sayulita, Stanford, Tobago, Todos Santos, Toronto, Turin, Vancouver, Victoria, and Volterra. So like when I say it's very, there's a lot of references, it's because of probably hearing a lot of languages. And one of the things that happened to me when I was writing this was I got dengue fever. Anybody get dengue fever before? Yes. I don't recommend that. So I was living on an island in Brazil, and at the time they didn't have any medicine for it. So they took me to the doctor, and the doctor just looked at me and he said, "Well, there's nothing I can do, but it's up to you if you want to live or die." And I was like, "What? Okay. I think I'll choose the second option." And so he just said, "Well, just basically sleep it off." So I spent a few weeks hallucinating in a bed covered with mosquito netting. And then when I woke up after that sort of terrible, a lot of aches and pains and joint pain and everything, I just started writing all these poems, some of which became the foundation of this text. So I'm going to read a little poem from that time in Brazil. It's called Country Music. And there are references to places like the Bay of Paints, which is a real place. Country music. I had a smell. It was hot inside. It was fixed between my eyes and also blinking from the heavens, ticking eclipse hedging it in light, like a morning mototaxi ripping past my window, descending his passengers into the sun. I had to go to this city called Savior, the city called Beautiful Horizon, city called River of July. I feared from my smell, the con men, muggers, raised knives, diesel shouts. In your curling intuition, where the velocity of things slimes along like a blue snail, you give me the map of my coming swath. You here, helped only by glittering sidewalks. You're so alone, and yet so generous, I thought, packing my cutlass for the trip across the Bay of Paints. In my sack, I packed a picture of you in your hair at the end of the dock, thinking no doubt of someone else's safety, considering the cities until beautiful sun collapsed behind your head, as I had done years before on a torchlit street. So one place I haven't been is Ibiza, I guess you pronounce it. I want to go, but it just sounds like a real party and lots of dancing. But then it's also, the people that live there hate tourists and want them all to leave. So it's like kind of, should you go or not? So this is maybe a poem for the people of Ibiza, not the tourists. It's called Smallpox in Ibiza. I'm singing through the auto-tune. I'm crying through the auto-tune. The auto-tune is strong. My eating game is long. When the Canada Goose jacket got the job over me, I knew we were in a new old era. The tallest poured concrete column in the world poured out of a water hole in the Caucasian sky. Do you just believe in nothing, or do you grab the gun and pray? Was the final menu item that caught my eye. I'm axing it a strong question. I'm waiting for the start of Big Gulp season. I am a strong question. So this poem is kind of about a place in Philly called Point Breeze, which is like in South Philly. And there's a lot of members of the Nation of Islam that are out and about, very clean brothers with bow ties, and they sell bean pies to you while you're sitting in traffic. So this is kind of about them, although they're really anti-drug, so they would not probably like this poem so much. It's called Bean Pies on a Point Breeze Stoop. What about our non-disclosure agreement? Just smoking big bowls, eating junk, and writing like a mother. Signing and signing and signing, correct, correct. Who got them sparks looping? I got them sparks looping. All them young Negroes still look up at me. What's the deal with that? Don't forget the cosign. I love driving around in my red drop top. I aspire to a trap house, popping tags, not microchip flipping. No, like the English settlers ripping and running away with the Indians home. I came here to purchase. I had a ski mask on. For the whole interview, I had a black ski mask on my black face, and it made even the black hip hop radio hosts nervous. My mother said, I've been popping tags, whatever that means. I'm going to read two more poems. So this is called Caribbean Flex. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Make I come check you, my baby. Where I'm from, them who drink lean is mostly grown men who eat their barbecue, drive around in their slabs, go home and make love into brightly colored stuffed animals. I had a friend once. I put roses on the Panamera. I put hand claps on the Guantanamera. It all happened on an Instagram story, whatever. Hashtag Draco weather, hashtag this and that. Started at the bottom and kissed on it. Love that bottom so much, I wanted to piss on it. I never told you that. Bless up, big up. These fully white peopled cities love recordings of dead black people crooning through hidden ceiling speakers above the lettuce aisle, but don't want bougie blacks in the glass condo next door. I get so lonely. My friends are Ben and Jerry's chunky monkey. I'm a chunky Negro monkey. We're natural friends. The empty streets are emptied at precisely 8 o'clock. Give me another tub Saturday night alone watching all my black people on Netflix. Give me death. Same thing. Let me put on my black power beret and scream slogans into an empty Congo peas can. I'll drown the words out with the engine sound of the bathroom fan. Let me watch so much online porn, I hurt the fleshy, ribbed crook of my hand. Let me blast soca tracks way past the rental condo 10 p.m. bylaw silence. I lick my wrist. All night long, the shuttered grocery store outdoor speaker gusts the empty sidewalk with grime. Bay from India, hills of biryani, med so good, now I speak Gujarati. I don't care, I leave myself on red. A corporation sprayed the condo walls wet color before I got here, and my dog, he's on probation another 5 years. Skirt, skirt, skirt. I no go rush you, my baby. From my balcony, I spied that gal, outrageous thing, but she can't see because I got shades on ting. Now I like collars, I like almonds. I'm not fronting, I like shining. I'm blunted, I'm grinding. The dank is loud and small chiming twists of melty space-time as for me to never know and me to plead out. Goddess of the goddamn sea, goddess of the goddamn sea, come forth, but a cat. The last poem I'm going to read is called Dad Bod. I wanted to call the book Dad Bod, but people are like, no one's going to take it seriously. And I'm like, it's poetry. No one takes it seriously. But I lost the battle. Dad Bod would have been great. All right. This is called Dad Bod. I want to be happy, fuck you. Lowrider magazine easy load for the AK in a Black Liberation Army birthday type of way. First thing I'm gonna do is grow my movement beard. Feel some type of way. But you must live in the Midwest. Be so inside these landscaped brethren, like a new gold scarf underwater. Why they making me read this when I got no vote? Pernicious, malarial citizen rocking the argumentable, it hurt us. Say we're the Sunnyside Strangler, so what? This was the new language. Thank you very much.